you so much for the presentation, and good morning to all of you that are here in Valencia and to all of you that are watching through the streaming. And well, hello to everyone that may watch this video at some point. First of all, I would like to thank INCIBE for the opportunity of that they gave me in order to give a presentation here at 2018 CyberCamp. Well, my presentation is called From Red to Blue. I've been thinking about this presentation for a long time. You will see why later. And the truth is that when I read that CyberCamp was given the opportunity to give inspirational talks, I thought, okay, it's the time for me to do so. So this is why I'm here. So I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a child that had many dreams. He used to dream about going to space, being an astronaut, becoming an astronaut, traveling on spaceships from one planet to another. He was not very good at drawing, as you could see, but when he was a little bit older, it seems that he liked everything that was far away from the Earth. He liked planes a lot. Back then, I don't know if he even watched Top Gun, and he really liked this type of stuff. And he really loved superheroes too. That was his passion. Beyond the space and airplanes, he really loved superheroes. And of course, whenever we have superheroes, we have also villains too. Probably these are modern villains, the ones that you may know, but well, superheroes and villains were something that he loved. He loved movies and figures and everything. And in the end, how can you recognize a superhero? In the street, for example, if you see someone helping somebody, how can you know that that person is a superhero? I think that the characteristics of a superhero are the following. So a superhero is someone that has superpowers. A superhero is someone that fights against evil, because if you have superpowers but you are doing bad things, then you're a supervillain or a villain. Also, superhero is someone that's willing to defend the citizens. You're fighting against evil, but not just because you want to end up with the evil in the world. This is because you want to help other people that are suffering from an injustice. And also, superhero needs to wear a cool outfit. You cannot be wearing normal clothing. You will be wearing a cap and a cool outfit. So this child started growing up, and he also loved building but also dismantling things. He loved building space stuff, but at the same time, children love also dismantling or destroying stuff. So he started growing up. Well, as you can see, time went by, and all these ideas were still there. But as he was growing up, he started making friends, and these friends started to gather together to do something really cool, because some of these friends had this type of computer. It was not really a computer, it was like a console. I don't know if any of you got to know this. This is the Spectrum, which was like something out of space for us at the time. You could play to many things in a screen, everything was moving. It was way more fun than reading a book. So this child asked his father, who may be watching this through streaming, asked his father to buy a Spectrum. But his father was very wise, and he told him, okay, I accept, I'm going to accept. And his parent bought that child this. It seemed cool at the beginning, but the child was kind of shocked. I mean, it seemed kind of similar, but this is not an Spectrum, right? I mean, I don't know, are there games here? But his father had a plan for him. He was thinking that besides playing games, this could offer something else. So he decided to buy a computer, but in exchange, this child had to go to some classes to learn some things. And the child was completely in shock. I mean, his friends didn't have to do these things. They just had the Spectrum and could spend hours playing. But I have to go to a class in which someone is explaining to me things that are very weird. He's using words in English, very weird concepts. It was quite strange, but this child started to enjoy this world. And he realized that he could play with some discs that he had with some games, but the child could also create programs so that the computer did things. And this was something that my friends didn't care about. But it's true that something was changing inside that child. So time went by, and when this child turned 18, and when he had to decide what to study at university, he started wondering, what should I study? There was a degree called computing science, which sounded quite good. I mean, that young man didn't know that maybe this career implied studying calculus or algebra. But anyway, he decided to study that degree. He went to university to study computer science. He learned many useful things. He learned some other things that were not that useful. He learned a lot about programming, something that he loved. He learned new languages, and he got to learn a lot during his experience at the university. This young man lived in the north of Spain, in Gijón, and when he finished his studies, he was 27, and he decided that he needed to look for new horizons, that he needed to do something outside his house, and therefore he decided to move to Madrid. I mean, the decision may seem quite weird, because if you see these two pictures, maybe it doesn't make sense for you either, because Gijón is a very nice city with a sea, etc. But we don't know why, but this young man decided to bring some change to his life and decided to move to Madrid. And well, he started sending resumes and CVs, and he got an interview in a company called INTA, INTA. I mean, this young man had sent so many CVs that he didn't even know who was contacting him. And this was an agency, a space agency. It was the National Institute of Aerospatial Techniques, which is in Madrid. It has several campuses in Spain. And he found out that in this company, they did this type of things that you can see on the screen. On the right you can see the Intasat, which is the first satellite that was built in Spain, that was put into space in 1974. So quite amazing. All these things had been created in Spain with Spanish engineers, Spanish budget. So it seems very appealing, right? Up left, you can see the CEPA. Also here you can see the European drones and rockets. And in one of the centers that was associated to this, to INTA, mechanisms and systems that are now in the rover Curiosity in Mars are being built and were built. Maybe it seems that Mars is not that shocking, but for me it is amazing that we don't talk that much about how powerful we are as a country, and that we do not talk that much about the achievements of our scientists. And well, we also have as I've said, some of these devices have been working in a device that's right now in Mars. So well, everything seemed really cool, but suddenly the company said, well, this job is related to information security. And well, I didn't know what to say. Tell me more about it. I said, well, probably you all know that, but these young men needed to start learning about assets, things that you want to protect, countermeasures, attackers, defenders. So, when you are offered a job like that, maybe you may think that you are going to defend something, assets, or I don't know, some things from attackers. But as we've seen during this event, and as you probably already know, how can you know if your defense is working? If you install a firewall or a barrier or something like that, how are you going to know that this is working? How can you go to bed saying, okay, everything is fine, I'm not concerned? In order to do so, you need to try things first, because every day we can see that, for example, a company says that this product is impenetrable, that, I don't know, a new magic coding and encryption has been launched, which is impossible to break. All these things are just words. If you want to see if something works or not, you have to test it. For example, you can have a pen testing, but if the pen testing is done by the bad guys and in the end they are copying your information, you are going to be concerned. So in the end you need someone, a third party, which is loyal and which tries and tests your defenses in a legal way, in a trustworthy way. And I must say that I really liked Yolanda and Alex's presentation, because they explain very well what a hacker is. So, as a hacker needs to test defenses. So what's a hacker doing in cybersecurity? Well, a cybersecurity hacker may try to find out security problems. So a company that needs to defend itself needs someone to test the security measures, and a hacker may be able to do that. And Yolanda and Alex explained this very well, and I'm mentioning this too. This is not just about finding vulnerabilities or security problems. Ethics is also important, because you may find security problems and then sell them and forget about everything else. So you need to find out security problems and notify them in a responsible way. in order not to end up in prison. So ethics are important. Yolanda said so before, and ethics are important for everything, in your job, in your life with your family. So this young man was thinking, okay, so I'm being hired in order to defend some things. But there are two scenarios, and we know that already. There are people in charge of protecting treasuries, and there are people that are paid, are hired in order to test if the defenses work, and in order to test that defenses and explain what happens. And this is why we have these two teams, red teams and blue teams. So they said that the color red of the red teams comes from the Cold War, but we may find different explanations because these colors are also used in the military area. But anybody can understand what this means. So what should the blue team, the defending team, do when talking about cybersecurity? Well, this team is in charge of establishing defenses, doing perimeter protection, protecting information, forensic analysis that we've seen before. All these tasks are done by the blue team, the defending team. The team that is going to test that defense, being hired or not, are the red team, and they are in charge of ethical hacking. I mentioned ethics before because we may think every type of hacking is ethical, but no, it's not like that. Not all hacking is ethical hacking. Also, this red team is in charge of exploiting vulnerabilities, doing penetration tests, crypto analysis. So there are things that are encrypted, and you realize that the encryption is something static with a meter. Social engineering is also one of the tasks of the red team. Physical hacking, trying to overcome the physical barriers. So we have blue and red teams here. So what's the mission of a red team? Of a red team hacker? Well, there are different thoughts about that. So, well, we said that this is a person that tries to test the defense mechanism. So the mission of the red team should be, for example, I'm here, I'm spending some hours here working, and I've shown that I can be a domain admin of your company, of your system. This is an option. Other people think that this is like a match, and we have red team and blue team. And if the result is 5-3 and that team has won, well, that's great for that team. I mean, it's always interesting to win, but I think that's something. There is something else behind this. In my opinion, the objective of a red team, when you hire someone in order to test your defense system, what you're doing is training your defenders in order for them to become better. If you do some tests, you find out some vulnerabilities, and you deliver a report, and then you patch that vulnerability, then we will find out new vulnerabilities in the future. The organization may, and another vulnerability that may be addressed. So the company is going to be improving continuously. So we need to understand that hackers, in this case, are there in order to improve the defensive capabilities of the organization. And sometimes they will win the match, but sometimes they won't. So let's go back to the story of that young man. He was not that young anymore. He started working in the INTA. This is not what we was thinking about at first. He is in charge of computing security, information security. He learns about these two worlds, red team, blue team. He's offered these two pills, and he decided to take the red pill. He doesn't know really why. because these are big companies spending a lot of money on defense, and you need to prove that you're smarter than them. So, well, in the end, he decides to take the red pill. I don't know if you've watched the film Matrix, because you are very young. I may consider changing my jokes depending on the audience, but, well, the incredible thing about that is that, well, in other companies may hire you in order to be a hacker in servers, in websites, but this was something else. The context here for these young men was finding vulnerabilities in the network, in the earth control network of the Eurofighter plane. Well, this seems pretty cool, right? I mean, I wasn't flying. I was not able to control a plane, but I was close to this world and I was contributing to this sector. So this young man learned here everything he needed to know about networks, about Windows servers, about Microsoft, about patches, if they were superseded patches or not. And this was a very enriching experience for this young man. After all the penetration testing, pen testing that he needed to do in order to show if a system was, say, secured or not, many more things arrived later. This is the A400M, which is a military plane, a European military plane. And in this case, it's not just that he had to try to violate the earth control systems. Other systems, connected systems, were participating too. And this was even more interesting because you could be inside the plane. I mean, in the previous case, you knew that you were working for the Eurofighter, but you were working from a computer. Here, you could start manipulating things in a plane, and in order to verify if networks were truly segmented or not, for example. What else was this young man doing in this company? He started working with encryption, military encryption machines, such as the one that you can see on the screen. On the right, you can see the encryption machines. Then we will see later where these machines were used. And CPIP also became something very familiar to him. He was spent many hours at night studying because he didn't have enough plenty during the day to understand all of these things. He started discovering new tools, new scripts that people published on the internet in order to find vulnerabilities of this in these equipments. On the right, you can see well, here you can see some machines that are similar to computers that are used in different sectors, such as the military sectors too, and they have a button in which you can click in order to delete all information inside. So in this case, the client needed to know if the defense system of this equipment was really working. I mean, they wanted to know that, for example, when the soldiers were in Iraq, if they clicked that button in an emergency situation, they wanted to make sure if maps and all the documents inside were going to be deleted. And using the skills of our RedTeam, you are able to get to know that. And also, again, in that company, in the INTA, They were assessing the security of the electronic ID, Spanish ID. Probably it's not been as widely used as we would like to, but it is a basic identification document here in Spain. So this young man also participated in all of the tests, analysis, studies, in order to look for vulnerabilities in the electronic ID, which I think is a huge achievement. And in spite of the size of the key and the problems with the code that we had, now we know that it is a secured ID document and it cannot be attacked. So, in this case, of course, this young man had to start studying again about smart cards, about how these things work. I mean, does it have a computer inside? How is it working? Does it have buttons? This was a new challenge for that young man, and he had to study a lot. And also the Ministry of Defense had some similar IDs that needed to be secured, etc. Another concept that I want to mention is the unbalance between attack and defense. I mean, if you're a defender, sometimes you may think the defender needs to do everything right all the time in order to do a right job, and nobody is thanking them for that. However, the attacker just needs to find a small failure in a moment of time, and he obtains all the glory, so to speak. This approach is not useful, because otherwise, if you're a defender, you are going to quit your job. But well, I'm just going to mention this, and I will go back to this later to see if we can change it a little bit, because if you have this approach, the pressure is going to be huge, and you know that you are going to make a mistake at some point. Why the offensive side is a good opportunity to start working in the cybersecurity field. This is something I wanted to comment, because what we are saying right now is that the defender needs to be almost perfect and get to know perfectly all the technologies that the organization is using, which is something impossible. I'm not saying that the other side is easy, but I think that for young people, people that are starting to work in the field of cybersecurity, regardless of age, I think that the offensive side is very interesting. There is a lot of knowledge. When I started, knowledge was just inside a library. You had to look for books related to that on a library. Internet said nothing about this. University talked about this just from time to time, but now you can access all the knowledge in the world for free, and you can access many different tools. If you download the Nmap, 90% of times you are going to have something to do. Of course, you have to study a lot, but I think that this is a very good opportunity to start working in the field of cybersecurity. You don't need to be an expert on everything. Depending on your specialization, you will realize that there are many people that are experts on things, and just some issues. If you become an expert on something, you don't need to become an expert on everything. And well, I think that it is also very fun, very interesting. You try to connect some place, and you need to introduce a user and a password, and you need to find out the data. I mean, it's a very interesting challenge, and I think that it may be very fun for young people. And then, for example, if you tell someone, especially a teenager or a young person, do not enter there, you cannot cross that door, it implies motivating that person in order to enter and to cross that door, right?
And the symmetry of the attacker. which goes in line with the fact of having a company with a budget of thousands of millions of euros, with a team devoted to cybersecurity, and in some cases, one person with a laptop remotely could be able to skip the credential part because they have been leaked, a VPN that doesn't ask for the double-step verification, non-encrypted backup, and so on. So that asymmetry I think is quite important in the beginning. We are talking about hacking, but careful, we mentioned it earlier, talking about ethics. It is quite easy to get lost. You're at your place, your neighbor's network is quite easy to break through, then you can access their computers, their data, and you think, well, I'm a good boy, I'm not doing anything harm. But be careful with the dark side, because you are tempted by them. And then the doorbell rings and you are in the middle of a trouble. I was telling these stories in my classrooms, but apparently I didn't do it in the right way, because the smartest guy in my class started to download things, to do things, and the doorbell at his home rang, and he was in trouble. I belong to the good side, not to the dark side. On this way, in this journey of this little boy who grew up to start working at INTA in the red team, but suddenly he had the chance to become a civil servant, and he passed the exam. So I started working on defense. So that's what people think about us, about civil servants. And this is how I think that many civil servants, not only those devoted to cybersecurity, but many of others, is to push, to work, to try to improve our organizations, to try to dismantle the myths on civil servants. There are many civil servants in Spain working hard to make things improve. Okay, so after everything we have said, the Eurofighter, the blue team, the red team, I don't know what happened, but this boy was offered both tablets, and then the blue pill was quite interesting to him. But what happens in the blue team? You couldn't work on the Nmap. He had a feeling inside. He was anxious, so he decided to change sides. And here I would like to share a reflection. Sometimes we are afraid because you think, I work on IT, but I'm working on development or on systems. What can I contribute with to cybersecurity? I'm sure I can't. Of course you can't. You're wrong. You have many things to contribute with. Precisely, the public administration has teams with people working on servers, switches, and so on. And they are welcome in the cybersecurity field. We need their expertise. We need people who do not only know about regulations and usage codes. We need people who are expert in technology. What about people in the development sector? We need people who understand a pro-side script. We need somebody who understands what a WASP is. We need that background, and they will keep on learning once they are part of our team. We need people who provide support to users. We need those people in order to help us, because sometimes there is a huge gap between security and users, as if there were no link between them, and there are some people who work on user support, which could be very useful for us. The boy, this young man, became a defender. And it is good to have a defender who knows how to attack. Some people arrived in the cybersecurity field without knowing what Scully is. They don't know what WASP is. So I'm not encouraging you to change sides right now, but the blue team with people with hacking knowledge would be unstoppable. So this young man took the blue pill and went to work at the Ministry of Defense. Here is what the Ministry of Defense does, because I'm sure that when you think about it, you think it has only to do with soldiers and so on, but it is a vital ministry in this country. Maybe you can think on troops. We mentioned Iraq earlier. There are some soldiers in Iraq, and we have soldiers deployed in over 25 countries in the world. And I want you to think that warships are moving all the time. Planes fly, cars move, deployments are made, and at the IT level it has to work, and of course at the cybersecurity level as well. So what this young man learned from the Ministry of Defense? Basically everything, because he came from the RedTeam and he knew a lot about hacking. But wait a moment, now you're on the blue team, so the conversation changes. So, new boy, we have a problem. How are we going to solve it? Then I had to start reading at night again. Both worlds are related, but they are quite different from each other. There are thousands of things to do in a public ministry. All the concepts on defense, prevention, detection, response. You need to learn all that because you're coming from the red team where you do other stuff and you have a different expertise. Teamwork and willingness, of course, are quite important. The experience of this young man at the Ministry of Defense was huge, was very important, because he started to think, to realize that there are people who are devoted, they are making their best in order to defend our territory and our society. I'm not going to go in depth because you already know who the attackers are. Attackers who want to earn money in an easy way, activists who do not agree with politicians and decide to bother the society and countries, which I'm not going to mention. This slide, this young man used to use this slide in his talks regarding the future soldier. But the future wars are going to be held in the cyberspace. This world is changing at a very fast pace. And this is a reality in war as well. In 2018, this man decided to change again. He had been working for several years at the Ministry of Defense and decided to start working at the City Council of Madrid. Quite weird, right? He changed all the troops deployed in the world for a small city. Well, I mean, Madrid is big, but it is still a city. So, do you know what a city council do? You know, all the paperwork. It must be important, but what do they do exactly? Many things, and many things which are close to citizenship. I'm showing you here everything that a city council has to do. So now think about everything that can go wrong if there is a cybersecurity incident. You can get some anxiety from this slide, I can tell you. And it is not a small city council, it is a big city council. It is huge. Over 3 million of inhabitants. Everything is at a big scale. As for the red team, to be huge is great because there is a lot of things that you can attack. On the blue team, it is a challenge to protect all that. This is 1 hour in the City Council of Madrid. I'm sure you have seen graphs like this according to what's going on the internet in just a minute. But as you can see on this slide, there is a lot of flux of information going in and out in 1 hour in the city council. So this man had to manage cybersecurity at the City Council of Madrid. And here you have some of the tasks the man was in charge of. Maybe some of you cannot see the importance of all of these tasks, but if the organization at the strategic level is not committed to cybersecurity, is it useless only to secure some gadgets. We need to have a cybersecurity office that works 24/7, because otherwise attackers might think, well, it is 5 p.m., civil servants are not there anymore, so I'm not attacking them. Of course not. We need to work 24/7. There are many things that we are trying to do in order for our organization to be as resilient as possible. It is a service and project-based approach. It is important to have a well-structured organization in IT, in the IT level. Everyone needs to know what their tasks are. Let's go back to what I told you before. This is the typical sentence that generates some anxiety. We need to change my mindset. How am I going to work? I'm not motivated because I need to do it right all the time. It's true, but you can turn it around. What you're saying is true, but once the attacker is present in my network, things change. From that moment on, he's the one that needs to do everything perfectly without any mistakes, any errors, not over-exceeding the red limit of ports, because I just need a small clue to detect him. It is not as nice, but I think that's a good motivation. This is also quite important, very important. Experience shows that on many organizations, people go on their own. IT systems have their own problems. So I'm here in my department. I don't care about the communications department, and there is no teamwork, there is no collaborative work between all the departments. However, all the departments within an organization need to work in an integrated and coordinated way. It is not about solving everyone else's problems. It is about making the organization work. We need, if you have an IT and communications department, which are great, but the development department does whatever they want, then we will have a huge problem. We also need to have the support by the legal department, which understands the importance of the clauses of a contract. civil servants and private sector professionals. What about merging them? Sometimes we think, oh, no, I'm not a civil servant, I'm just doing a report and sending it. No, we are working on the same team. We are in the same team. We need collaboration of the private sector in order to work in a uniformed way. This is another typical sentence. This ethical hacking team doesn't get along with the defendant team. What are they going to think about me? Let's hinder their work, you cannot do that, and so on. There is a lack of understanding of the fact that this job is made to improve the organization. We need to use the ethical hacking team in order to improve as an organization, and managers need to understand this. Another point. This coordination, which I think has experienced a lot of progress, is essential. There are many organizations which are working on the same thing, and even if the coordination has improved, there is room for more improvement. I am talking about all these areas, departments, because there are only two teams, no more. You have the bad guys and the good guys, nothing else. We are all on the same side. In this line, this man, together with other civil servants who were quite worried in this regard, they decided to create a community where civil servants devoted to cybersecurity could exchange information. Sometimes we struggle to coordinate different organizations because the director of one organization needs to talk with the director of another organization. But in addition to that organization coordination, we need to have civil servants to talk to each other because we are facing the same problems. Solutions are the same. The stakeholder is the same. I don't know in private companies, but for civil servants, we know citizens are the main stakeholder. So we are launching a set of activities in order to be able to exchange ideas so that people are not sitting in front of their computer without knowing what to do, and then they don't do anything. No, there is hope. You can talk to other civil servants in order to find your solutions. So here you have our social media accounts. Obviously, I guess you have figured out that the boy I was talking about is myself. So what happened with the dreams of that young boy? Let's see. Space, airships, and so on. No, I'm not an astronaut like our minister, Pedro Duque. But I was close. I talked and exchanged opinions with people who had been working on those projects. So for me, it's almost fulfilled. Obviously, I'm not a plane pilot, so I didn't fulfill that dream. Better for me not to have done it. But I have worked on the Eurofighter project and other projects related to airplanes. So if you want to be optimistic, you can think that my dreams were kind of fulfilled. Not about this one. I'm not a superhero, unfortunately. But let's review the story. What were the 4 virtues of a superhero? They fight against the evil ones? Well, I think I'm fighting against those attackers on the other side of the firewall. So yes. Superheroes defend citizens. Well, I think I have fulfilled this dream. I'm working to improve security for the city of Madrid. They wear a uniform. Well, look at me, I'm wearing one. And what about the last one, superpowers? No, I do not have superpowers, but I think I can consider myself as being 3/4 of a superhero. Maybe it is a bad joke, but somehow you can see that this boy fulfilled his dreams. And we're running out of time. So to conclude with, I want to say that maybe hackers and cybersecurity experts can work on several things, but in the end, what we are protecting is what lays behind. The technology is embedded in our society, so what we are protecting in the end is public services, hospitals, cities, airspace, our sovereignty. So I think that those who devote themselves to cybersecurity have the mission of defending the society from those who want evil to prevail. But the evil is not going to prevail. I can tell you, because all together we're going to contribute to making the bad guys not to win the match. But we need help. There are only a few of us, and we need much more people, much more help. Winter is coming, I think. Winter is here already, so we need your talent, you need your help. Whether you are on the red team or on the blue team, but we don't need only you. Men, we need you, women. Don't let anyone tell you this is not your place. Who said that? That's not true. We need female talent. We need everything you women can contribute with. We need your experience, your way of understanding life. We don't only need men in cybersecurity. We need men and women. So that's what I wanted to share with you. This is my Twitter account and ProTap's Twitter account. I would like to thank the City Council of Madrid, which has supported me to send me here. I would like to thank my colleagues, José Miguel, Juan Javier, who are there in the City Council resisting. And also I would like to be grateful towards my family, who is my biggest support. And that's all. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions.
Retomo lo que decía Yolanda antes, no tengáis miedo de...
As Yolanda was saying, do not be afraid to ask me any question. If you see me outside, you can tell me my jokes were bad. You can tell me you don't know Matrix, for example. I will be here the whole day. You can also use Twitter in order to communicate with me. Any problem you have, any inspiration, frustration you may have, I would be glad to help you with. Thank you very much.